Okay guys, welcome to Essay Writing Lesson 3. This one is going to talk about the difference between thesis statements and topic sentences and teach you how to write one. Alright, so you're going to be able to understand the difference between a thesis statement and a topic sentence through doing what? Taking notes and passing that mastery check. Let's get going. So what are these things? Thesis statements. Let's start right there. This is a sentence or two that sums up the central point or sets up, your main argument and what your essay is about. It's preferably a single sentence, but the more advanced you get in school, the more that your thesis will become larger. And so right now in high school, really a single sentence is all you need. And then in more advanced writing, when you're writing many, many pages, is generally when your thesis will become more than a sentence. But again, this is your essay claim, and this requires evidence to support it. It's the most important part of your introduction. Without this, your essay may not flow, it may not make sense. And there it is. It can't properly flow without a thesis statement, okay? And everything that you then write in your essay should be connected to this sentence. So you can see that that's why it's so important. Now, how is this different from a topic sentence? Well, the topic sentence is the sentence that sets up a body paragraph, okay? Or if you have a single paragraph, then it's your topic sentence, okay? But as soon as you're in an essay, your thesis is your main one, and your topic sentence is what sets up each of those body paragraphs, okay? So these are also claims that require evidence to support it. And each topic sentence is going to represent one main point from your thesis or from the signpost in your introduction, okay? So how do you write a thesis statement? There are 3 steps to writing a thesis. First, start with a question. Usually you're given one, but every once in a while you're given a statement, okay? So start with that question, break it down, make sure you know what you're being asked. If you're given a statement, try writing a question so that you have a strong starting point. Then, write your initial answer, okay? At this point, it can be really simple, right? It's just something to help start guiding your writing. And this is how you create a working thesis. Then you develop your answer, okay? Why is this your answer? And how are you going to convince a reader that you are right, okay? Once you have all of those components, then you can craft that single statement that sets up the paragraph because it's going to include the why and the how. Oh, I almost missed a point, Dewey. But it also doesn't just state your opinion, but it essentially summarizes your overall argument. Okay. So let's look at some examples, okay? I've got 3 examples for solid thesis statements that set up an entire essay, okay? Here's your first one. The negatives of internet use are outweighed by its many benefits for education. The internet facilitates easier access to information, exposure to different perspectives, and a flexible learning environment for both students and teachers. The second one. The invention of the printing press in the 15th century allowed for much less restricted circulation of information in Europe, paving the way for the Reformation. Or let's try a literature-based one. Mary Shelley uses shifting narrative perspectives to portray Victor Frankenstein in an increasingly negative light as the novel goes on. He starts out as a naive but sympathetic idealist, but by the end, we see him as a thoughtlessly cruel figure. Okay, so what you can see in any of these examples is the depth that it's going to take to prove them, right? And so this is why you can see that they're good thesis statements, because there's much that's going to need to be written in order to prove any of these things. All right, so let's look at how you transition from a thesis to a topic sentence. And we're going to actually look at this very first example. All right, so the idea of the negatives of the internet use, they're outweighed by its many benefits for education. The internet facilitates easier access to information, exposure to different perspectives, and a flexible learning environment for both students and teachers. All right, so in your first topic sentence, you may have something like, one way the internet is more beneficial than negative is that it helps to facilitate easier access for communication, whether through email, online chats, or social media. Okay, so you can see already we named in that topic sentence that the internet is more beneficial than negative, just like we talked about in the thesis. And then in this paragraph specifically, it's going to be about having easier access to information. So notice how that's the first thing in the first main point presented in the thesis. So it's also what your first body paragraph is about. All right, another way the internet is more beneficial than negatives, there's those words again, is that it gives people exposure to different perspectives, which allows individuals to make more informed decisions. So again, you can see that exposure to different perspectives is the second main point in the thesis. So the second body paragraph is specifically about that. I also want to point out that that is then going to be proven in 2 ways, right? So like you're proving this thesis in 3 ways, and then in each of those 3 ways, you're proving each of those little things in more ways. So it gets big and smaller. All right, and then that third one, finally, the internet is more beneficial than negative because it's a flexible learning environment for both students and teachers. And so again, the same language, more beneficial than negative. And again, it's the third point from that sentence that it deals with a flexible learning environment. And so this one is about the flexible learning environment, and it'll specifically talk about how it's flexible for students and how it's flexible for teachers. And so right here on this slide, you have an entire paper basically fully outlined as far as what it's going to be about. Okay, so if you want to get into more in-depth information about a thesis statement, then check out this article and take notes. Otherwise, you now know the difference between thesis statements and topic sentences. Go you! Now, you can take your mastery check. Good luck!